I'm Eric Parker this morning on CT22, Improving Connecticut's Roads. State Transportation Commissioner Joe Giletti is joining us in studio to update us on some of the important projects underway on state highways. We'll also be talking rail, what's going on with the Hartford line and improvements just getting underway there, and we'll get an update on Shoreline East and their new M8 train cars. Plus, in our Sunday Spotlight, the state is looking for a few good men and women to volunteer for the country's oldest continuously serving military unit. Maybe it should be you. We'll tell you about it. It's all I have this Sunday, July the 24th. CT22 starts right now.
From WFSB, this is CT22 with Eric Parker, sponsored by Hartford Healthcare.
Good morning. Today we're talking transportation and what's happening on Connecticut's roads and rails specifically. We begin with the roads. One of the major road projects in our state that we've talked about on this show before was dubbed the Charter Oak Bridge Congestion Buster project. It was designed to allow for better traffic flow between I-91 North to I-84 heading east in Hartford. The project had its challenges, but how's it working right now? State Transportation Commissioner Joseph Giletti is joining me in studio now to talk about the project and others. Joe, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And it's nice to be in the studio this
I know.
time.
We're not talking to each other in little boxes. This is nice.
Yes.
So the last time we had John, we were talking about that congestion buster in Hartford. It was a little confusing to people at first, just one lane at first, but now it's wide open. How's it working?
Well, you know, first off, it was a change because we were also changing which side of the highway went off to it. And there was a logic behind it and a safety reason for doing it. And no sooner had we opened up that lane on the left side that we decided that working with the contractor, we could make it a double lane. And that was our goal all the way along, because if we keep two lanes going there, you would actually get rid of the congestion. And though there was a lot of doubts and a lot of people getting frustrated in the beginning when they went, it's wonderful. I actually use that every day now. So I happen to enjoy it personally, and I think it was well constructed, and it has definitely had a major impact on the accident ratio and of what was going on. And that's usually how we assess where we're going to do our jobs, by how many accidents you have, whether or not you're forcing people to change over lanes. And whenever we can avoid doing that, it'll save on both the congestion and on the accidents that are taking place.
Well, I think the last time we talked about it, one of the things in that area that locals had always said, I mean, it could be like 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. You just never knew, and all of a sudden you'd come to that spot, and for whatever reason it was backed up there. So that anecdotal stuff, the crashes, the congestion, it's looking better?
It not only is looking better, it's done exactly what we wanted it to do, and we are very fortunate that the contractor actually worked with us to open up the lane on the left side while we were still working with the lane on the right side. So that was a little bit confusing because people could still go off on the right side while the new lane was going in on the left. But once we opened it as a double lane on the left, it's made all the difference in the world, and it really is a well-honed system right now in terms of how it's functioning.
I want to move around the state and talk about some other projects, but I want to ask you first, you just said about crashes in that area.
Yeah.
And we were talking before we started, and you told me something really alarming. We all recognize, we come up on those construction sites, and that last truck has the big thing that folds out with the barrels in it. And I didn't know the term. You told me it's called the crash truck.
It's a crash truck, yes.
And it speaks to how many crashes you've had on the highway. Tell me the statistic about the crash truck.
So, you know, I've been emphasizing this for two reasons. One, all the way through the pandemic, when the number of cars were down, people got quite used to running around without a lot of cars up there and going at speeds well above the established speed, okay? In most cases, or some cases, around 50 miles an hour over the established speed. So I'm pulling out the paper because I don't like giving numbers unless I have them accurately. So in 2021, our crash vehicles were struck 112 times, and so far this year it's been struck 80. And if you think about it from the standpoint that in front of that truck is a bunch of employees that are out there trying to straighten out a highway or a guardrail or boom mowing, every one of them could have resulted in our losing an entire gang, okay? And the trucks are able to take, the newest ones can take up to a 62-mile-an-hour crash, but they are also putting that driver at risk when it goes and hits it. The other thing I want to emphasize is, aside from that going on, what we are finding out here in the state, and I just got these numbers, in 2022 we had 202 traffic deaths. That's so far this year. We had a total of 161 in 2021. In 2020 it was 159. So, you know, when you take a look at the fact that our fatalities for pedestrians are up by 50%, our fatalities for bike riders is up 66%, You know, the message very clearly is that we have to start talking about the fact that people are driving too fast, too erratic, losing control, and it's not only endangering our employees that are out there, it's endangering everybody that's out there in terms of what goes on. And that's why our signs that say speeding and causing a mishap at that point, it's not an accident. You know, we really should be taking this a lot more seriously as we talk about what's been going on out there.
And I do want to get to construction, so just briefly,
Sure.
but you said up and down the East Coast, you hosted people in your position, and they all had the same concern. So obviously we could put more troopers out there and radar guns and such, but what can the DOT do to try to slow people down?
One of the things, well, there's a number of things, okay, some of which are not received as being very popular, but you're right. We had NASTO here, and NASTO had every commissioner from Maine all the way down to Washington and also over to Louisiana. And we brought in all of our federal partners. We had the top people from FRA, which is the Federal Railroad Administration, Federal Highway System, Federal Transit Administration. And the number one emphasis for all of them is that we've got to be talking safety. And everybody is having these problems with high speeds, erratic driving, and loss of control of vehicles. So on the DOT side, you know, we are working with the state police. You know that we got through the legislature this past year an ability to do speed enforcement in work zones. We're going to run a pilot program. The only thing that we've ever seen that slows people down, and it works in school zones and everywhere else, is when you use speed cameras and people know they can get an automatic ticket from it. And we're also trying to protect the state police that are on it by making sure that they're the ones that are going to be, you know, issuing those tickets, and it allows them to use the data and the radar gun and everything else that will turn around and generate that ticket. So it also eliminates having to go chasing the cars down and then pulling people over. But that's the first of our attempts that we're hoping to have in this fall, that we'll start seeing those in the work zones. And then based on that, we'll go back to the legislature and say how well it worked, or if it didn't work, all right, and then talk about what are the other things that we can do along our highways. A lot of the states are going to go into speed enforcement with cameras, and that's why if you've gone down and you've used Waze or any of the systems, it'll tell you where the cameras are that are out there, and we've got to be thinking about that in the future of the state here.
All right, we got about 2 minutes left before we have to take a quick break. I want to go through some of the projects we've talked about. Sure. I-84 in West Hartford, big changes to the West Hartford Center exit and the interchange there. How's that going? What should people expect?
It's going very, very well. Our contracts are out on it. We're doing well there, and I know you want to go right from there to talking about the Mixmaster, so let's get the Mixmaster out. Mixmaster, we've got the contract out. We were originally at one time, and we talked about redoing the entire Mixmaster. It'd be billions of dollars. So what we're doing right now is we're coming up with solutions that'll give us another 20 years out of it. What we have found on that one is when we started to do the work, every time you pull back the top layer, you've got to look and see whether or not you've got to do more work with it. So this one has required more work. It'll be going on for a while, but it's been very, very successful. We'll have it completed by the middle of next year. And again, what we will have then is, from a safety perspective, a bridge that will last us for another 20 to 25 years while we work on the overall plans. But very, very complicated. Over 3 miles just on Route 8 through the Mixmaster, 2.87 miles or 2.67 miles of what we have to do to go and straighten that bridge out going forward.
And certainly a lot of our viewers go through there, a busy area. Just one more I want to ask you about, because people may have noticed it, and it's happening right now on Route 9, but it's going to spread, I think, changing these exit numbers. And you know, in Connecticut, there's nothing we like less than change. So what's going on? Why do we got to change all these? We got about 30 seconds left. Can you explain it quick?
The quick answer is what we're trying to do on the national scope is that you tie the exit numbers into the mileposts that they're going. So that way there it becomes very identifiable, easily identifiable for when you're calling in or when you have something, where before the numbers were based on this was the first exit, the second exit. So now when you look at the exit numbers, they're correlated to how many miles along the highway they are. So it makes it much more understandable for everybody that has to respond to it where it is. And even when you're driving along, it sometimes tells you how many miles you've been since the highway started and how many miles are left if you're on the opposite side.
And we're seeing it now on Route 9. I know we already saw it on 395. It's coming for everybody, right? So, so don't get too in love with your exit number. That's
exactly right. And the other end of it, keep watching on Route 9, because we're also going to have the new camera systems going there, and that's very exciting.
All right, very good. We're going to take a quick break.